Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here, and we have the Fading Twilight Math Guide ready, the Yelan Math Guide. Fading Twilight is going to be a new event-only weapon. It's basically an F2P weapon, a 4-star weapon that is given to us in the 2.7 event. So if you don't already know, how Genshin works is that we will get an alternate free character and free weapon every patch. So this version, we got a character, next version we'll get a weapon. And then it just keeps repeating itself. Okay, so 2.7, the version where we are getting Yelan, we will be getting Fading Twilight, and this is the weapon. And I'll talk more about Fading Twilight in detail later, in comparison with 3-star weapons, because it is a fully F2P weapon, just like 3-star weapons, which are pretty much fully F2P per se. So, yep. Now, if you're wondering about how the damage figures looks like, yeah, this is damage figures. Okay, just in case you're wondering. And this is the initial hit. For the burst, these are the individual. Exquisite throw is the procs, and these figures are adding the 3 together, and you have the C2 effect, C4, C2 is C4 effect, etc. The state 1, 2, 3 it refers to that of the Fading Twilight. So you can pause and analyze this if you want to, but for me, I'm gonna give you guys this particular section here. Before we start, before we start, what I'm gonna cover: Fading Twilight versus 3-star weapons round up, how the state rotation works in the VapeEC rotation, Yelan damage and DPS in VapeEC Fading Twilight, C0 Fading Twilight comparison, finally a TLDR, and the Yelan video series on what's next. So let's talk about, before we start, basically for this math guide, the figures will be based on VapeEC. Please refer to the VapeEC math guide for VapeEC math guide for the comp, rotation, assumptions, energy, and ER, etc. for the details, or if you need to recap. I'm not going to cover that here, otherwise the video will just be too long. Okay, I will put the link to the VapeEC math guide in both the in-video link or the top right corner here, as well as in the description, so that you can easily access it. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Fading Twilight versus the 3-star weapons. Since Fading Twilight is an event weapon, it's fully F2P. Like I said, I'll add it to the 3-star weapons, and I'll add it in fact to the 3-star weapons table that was covered in the Slingshot Math Guide previously, which was the previous Yelan Math Guide. In interest of time, I won't go through all the 3-star weapons, but they are all listed here, and you can pause if required, yeah? Now, if you want to hear me go through the 3-star weapons, do check out the Slingshot Math Guide. And obviously, I'll put that in the in-video links, in the description, etc. Yeah? So, this is the table. This is how it looks like. So, like I said, I'm not going to go through what we went through in the previous Math Guide. In red here is Fading Twilight. So, Fading Twilight is actually a high base weapon, high base attack 4-star weapon, which is why the base attack is 565. Not like the low ones, which is like something like 401. Yeah. So ER is 30.6. It's not 61.3 like Favonius. It's 30.6 like Sacrificial. And this is the effect that it has. So the weapon has 3 states: even, gleam, afterglow, and dawn blaze. Basically, they each increase the damage dealt by 12%, 20%, and 28%. So basically, it's an 8% difference per state, with the biggest difference being 16% from the lowest and the highest. So when your attacks hit opponents, this weapon will switch to the next state. It is very important, you need to hit opponents for the weapon to trigger a switch to the next state. And the weapon can only change states once every seconds. So if you are continuously hitting, you'll still be in that state for 7 seconds. Once the 7 seconds is up and you hit someone or an opponent, the state will change. So it includes changing from 28 to 12%. So basically it keeps cycling through. Now the character equipping this weapon can still trigger the state switch while not on the field. So at least you don't need to switch the character in. But this may or may not be good, right? Because we just said that it can go from state 3 to state 1, which means it drops. Okay. So yeah, don't worry. I'll talk more about how the state rotation works in our VapeEC rotation. Now let's talk about the weapon itself. Since base attack doesn't matter, for Yelan, it's bad that the substat is low with high base attack on Fading Twilight. So if you compare to Slingshot, right, 31.2 CI is 10 rows, or 10 artifact rows, 30.6 EI is only 5 rows. So that's pretty bad for fading. And now you might say that, hey, but Sacrificial is the same, right? It's 30.6 ER. True, but Sacrificial gives you a really good weapon effect for the case of Yelan. But Fading Twilight, it continuously changes states every 7 seconds, assuming you're hitting, which you would with a Q. So how would the weapon perform then? Because now we know that we can't optimize it. We can't game it such that the weapon stays at the 28% state. No, it doesn't work that way. In fact, you're gonna have to try to make try your best effort to make it such that the third state happens on your most important duration, which is your Hu Tao or your Yomiya. They are attack timing. They are action timing. So they are on field time. So this state rotation thingy, wow, it's a good concept. It's not that great, to be honest, and I'll talk more about it right now. So I'm going to show a rotation here, although I know I asked people to refer to the math guide for the details, but just bear in mind that this is just a rotation. It doesn't show you the different type of assumptions and details of it. So assuming Yelan starts in state 1, Even Gleam, with the state 1 Even Gleam 12% damage bonus, okay, or boost, and assuming that the 7-second cooldown is ready at this point, where you are firing off your first Yelan charge attack, the BB charge attack, the first charge attack hits and changes to state 2. Your weapon changes to state 2 and you achieve Afterglow, and you get a 20% damage bonus. Let me just do a space here so that it's clear that it's not minus. In case some people look at it and think that it's minus, there's no way that it's minus, right? So you get a 20% damage boost when you switch to state 2 after your first Yelan CA, which means that your Yelan Q, Yelan EQ prod CA here are all in state 2, so 20% bonus. And for C0, which is this rotation here, the next state change to state 3, which is your 38%, your Dawn Blaze, is going to come at the Q prod that will trigger from your Kazuha's N1, because when you reach this point here, it has not been 7 seconds yet. Oh, by the time you reach here, it's more than 7 seconds, but you are only, this is the point where you are really hitting. You are hitting with your character that is equipping the Fading Twilight via the Q prod that happens, or few Q prods that happens when your Kazuha does an N1. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So what happens is that we now switch to state 3, which is a good thing, because we go to state 3 at the start of Hu Tao action. But Hu Tao action is 9 seconds, so we will not be getting the full bonus for Hu Tao. Right, because the last 2 seconds of Hu Tao is actually going to be state 1. In fact, ideally you want to be last 2 seconds of state 2, 7 seconds of state 3, right? For the full Hu Tao action, 9 seconds. But it's not the case here. It's 7 seconds of state 3 and 2 seconds of state 1. Now, if you notice, right, because it says 2 seconds of state 1, right, which means we have 5 seconds left on the cooldown timing, right? It's still 5 seconds away. So this means that if you repeat this rotation immediately with Fading Twilight, what happens is that on the second rotation, your first Yelan CA is not going to be causing a state change, which means this in turn delays the state 3 in the Hu Tao action on the second rotation, and it's likely going to be a lesser damage scenario where you don't get the full 7 seconds of state 3 on Hu Tao action. Oh yeah, then I realized this is a bit confusing. For full 9 seconds, yeah, let me put it that way to avoid any confusion. Now remember, it's not just 7 seconds. You need to hit it with Yelan even with off you. I want to bring this up because I know that there were people who will look at, hey, it's 5 seconds away from the cooldown on the second rotation. If I minus 5 seconds, then I have a perfect 14 seconds, and my Hu Tao still gets the last 7 seconds of state 3. Yes, but remember, you need to hit even if off you. And can you imagine having to remember to trigger that hit? How are you going to remember to trigger that hit at that particular point in time? How are you going to do a timer 7 seconds each time? So this effect is going to snowball and impact further rotations, not just the second rotation. So I am honestly not a fan of this state rotation. It's quite simply a mess. It's troublesome to keep track of too. On top of that, the effort involved in trying to keep track of it, right? you're not being rewarded with a good damage boost. I mean, it's only 8% damage boost per stick. Or if you want to consider entire rotation, biggest difference is 16% damage boost. Still feels bad, right? So yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan of this state rotation. I don't like how it works. Okay, so this is how it works, how I understand it to work, and I hope this is helpful in terms of explaining it. Now let's look at the Yelan damage and DPS with Fading Twilight with all of these factors considered in, like when it changes, etc. When you get the 12% boost, when you get a 20% boost, when you get a 28% boost, which is why I was showing you guys this, right? Because you have my state 1, 12%, 20%, and 28% here. Likewise when you have C4, etc. Okay? So if we look at the damage, if you remember my Yelan's damage in VV it's definitely higher than this, right? Typically. This is the rotation DPS. Oh wait, we should look at emblem, sorry. So these are the emblem figures. This is emblem DPS. We have the C0 figures here, C0 as well. So let's talk about it. As mentioned in the earlier section, second rotation will likely have worse damage and DPS. Figures above are just the first rotation. Okay, this is first rotation. For ease of comparison and analysis, I will only look at first rotation here. The figures at C0 with 4-piece emblem are honestly pretty bad. It's actually lower than Slingshot by 4%. And if you saw my previous Slingshot video, I already talked about whether Slingshot is good or overrated. And I think you know where I stand on that. And I'll go more into detail when we do a C0 weapon comparison. However, starting from C1 onwards, with lower ER requirement, it does perform much better, right? We go from 11k DPS to 17 or 18k DPS. That's quite a significant boost. And again, it's because of how extreme the VV Vape ER requirements is at C0, 250 ER. At C1 plus, it's still very high, it's 190 ER. In fact, at C1 to C3, Fading Twilight actually performs better than Slingshot by 1 to 2%. And even if this is mainly because even if Fading Twilight's damage bonus is not that great, it still applies to all attacks. At C4 to C6 though, Slingshot performs slightly better by 1 to 5.5%. Too much dose. And obviously the 5.5% is at C6. So why is this the case? It's because of higher HP from C4, your crit stats get more value. Okay. So, all in all, Fading Twilight is not too bad for Yelan. But since Slingshot performs better than just slightly better, I mean, what I'm trying to say here is that it's not just 1 to 2% better, it's 4% better. So I would say go for Slingshot and give Fading to a attack scaling character since it has a high base attack. But to be honest, with the amount of good 4-star bows available, it's hard for Fading to find a good spot, to be honest. Don't you guys think so? I mean, there are so many good bows, right? Stringless, Alley Hunter, Rust, Moon's Moon. There are all types of category for all types of damage bonuses with much higher bonuses than what this state rotation bonuses can offer. So yeah, I don't know. I don't find a good spot for Fading Twilight. To be honest with you guys, I might even leave it at level 1. I don't feel like it's worth spending ores on it. Now, in fact, one good thing for Fading Twilight though is that there is one weapon that performs worse than Fading Twilight in the VV math guide that I've done. Not the math guide yet. The math that I've done for the 8 weapons. It's actually one of the 4-star weapon. Stay tuned for the next video where I will do all 8 weapons and you guys will see which weapon actually performs worse than Fading Twilight, at least for VV, specific to VV. Okay. Now let's look at C0 comparison next because I think that is something that's more interesting to players who are interested in Fading Twilight to begin with, right? That's why I did it as a separate session. Likewise for Slingshot. So let me add on to the previous C0 comparison in Slingshot math guide. Okay, sorry for the slight skip, my Excel hand on me. Okay, so this is C0 Fading Twilight being added to the previous C0 comparison that we did in Slingshot math guide. So what happens is that we have 5 bows here. Fading Twilight, Slingshot, Favonius, Aqua, and Sacrificial bow. Right off the bat at the 4 emblem figures, you can tell, right? Fading Twilight is the worst performer. But let's look at the percentage to be clear, because some of the duration is different, especially for the Sacrificial bow. So looking at the DPS figures here, which is more accurate, basically, first off, we see that Fading Twilight there is no red figures. So what does this mean? This means that all of these weapons here, Slingshot, Favonius, Aqua Set Bow, they are all better than Fading Twilight. And this is a percentage that they are better at. I suggest that we just look at R5. Yeah, this is R1, R5, standard stuff for my math guides. So as I have mentioned earlier, Fading Twilight is not that great due to rotation back to state 1 as well as a higher base attack that's useless for Yelan. At R5 it's 4% behind Slingshot, it's 27% behind Favonius, 41% behind Sacrificial, and 44% behind R1 Aqua. But it makes sense, right, for me to compare R5 Fading Twilight versus R1 Aqua rather than R5 Aqua. But remember, this is specific to C0 Yelan in VVVcom. Okay, when it comes to Taser, without that crazy amount of ER, right, the rankings etc. may change a little. So don't worry about that, I'll cover that in future video. So I hope the above serves as a good example why weapon effect needs to be taken in consideration, especially for Aqua. This is the reason why Aqua is the best performer. Its weapon effect is a key advantage on top of its high CD. So, yep, Fading Twilight worse than Slingshot. TLDR, Fading Twilight has a better weapon effect than Slingshot for Yelan, but worse state rotation is not that great, so please refer to specific section for details. Fading Twilight's performance at C0, even with a better weapon effect than Slingshot, but still not that great. Fading Twilight is the worst performer for the weapons compared so far at C0. At R5, it's 4% behind Slingshot, 27% behind Favonius, 41% behind Sacrificial Bow, and 44% behind R1 Aqua. So Slingshot versus Fading Twilight at C1+. At C1 to C3, R5 Fading Twilight is better than R5 Slingshot by 1 to 2%. So there's a bit of hope for Fading Twilight. It's actually 1 to 2% better than Slingshot at C1 to C3. But at C4 to C6, again, it's worse than Slingshot. Slingshot is again better. So basically at C0, C4, C5, C6, Slingshot is better. At C1, C2, C3, Fading Twilight is better. But I'll talk about the conclusion later, okay? I know it sounds confusing, but it's okay. Now, interestingly enough, in the 8 weapons that I have done math for VVV, there is one weapon that performs worse than Fading Twilight, and it's a 4-star weapon. Stay tuned for the next video. And lastly, to conclude, you are better off using Slingshot on Yelan since R5 Slingshot is pretty much F2P2. It's 4% better at C0, which I would expect that that's where your Yelan constellation will stop if you are interested in F2P weapons. Yeah. Now, and you can give Fading to an attack scaling character, make good use of their high base attack. But with the amount of good 4-star bows available, like I said, right, Rust, Moon, Stringless, Alley Hunter, there's so many good 4-star bows available. It's really hard for Fading to find a good spot, to be honest. Yeah, so I don't think I might. I don't think I would even make use of the enhancement bonus and enhance that weapon when we have the event effect, right? Doesn't feel worth it. Yeah. Well, I might have to do it as a content creator just to compare the performance. But if you're not like me, you're just a player, right? I'll just say save your ores, especially if you are low on ores. Okay, so let's talk about what's coming next on the Yelan video series. We have completed the Fading Twilight video now, and all these are completed as well. So the next video will be the full 8 weapon round up for Yelan VVV. Okay, and I'll probably do a 8 weapon round up for Taser, for VapeEC, and then we will do the Yelan Constellation and Refinement comparison, and hopefully by then I will be ready to do the a summarized sort of like cheat sheet, although it will be more than one sheet. But it's basically to take all the TLDRs from all my math guides and try to put them in a more summarized manner, more like a cheat sheet, so that people can refer to it. Yeah, it can help you with how you want to build your Yelan. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope the content has been helpful to you. If you like the content, remember the video and click subscribe for more. Let me know in comments if there are any specific math you would like. Oh, and remember, I have super tens that support that is unlocked recently. So you can use super thanks to show your support for me. And if there's, because super thanks will make it a highlighted comment, I'll make sure that I will not miss the highlighted comment. Okay, the super thanks comment. Okay, you can also join me over at Twitch where I answer almost every question there too. Twitch.tv/Koinzellgi. The link is in the description as well. Okay. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. Bye.